The unified Galactic Assembly's headquarters, on Centauri Prime, looked like what would happen if you asked a computer to design the perfect office building. Every angle was precisely calculated, every surface optimized for maximum efficiency. The building's gleaming spires reached into the purple-tinted sky, their paths following mathematical formulas so complex that human architects would need supercomputers just to understand them. Inside, Administrator Zix 427 glided through the corridors, his crystalline form refracting the ambient light in carefully controlled patterns that conveyed his rank and function to other beings. Like all members of the Silicon Collective, he took pride in the perfect optimization of his society. Their civilization, along with the other founding members of the UGA, had spent millennia eliminating inefficiencies, redundancies, and that most dangerous of all factors, unpredictability. The morning briefing displayed on his neural interface with perfect clarity. Another record quarter for productivity across the 1,000 worlds of the Assembly. Resource allocation had achieved 99.99998% efficiency. The new quantum-based decision matrices had reduced policy-making time by another 0.03%. Everything was proceeding exactly as the models had predicted. Everything, that is, except for their newest members, humans. The word itself seemed to disrupt the elegant flow of data through his consciousness. They had discovered the Earth species just 50 years ago, and their introduction to the galactic community had been messy. While they had achieved the basic requirements for UGA membership, faster-than-light travel, unified planetary governance, though theirs was chaotic by Assembly standards, and non-destructive energy production, their methods were bewildering. Zix 427 paused at a viewport, gazing out at the distant Sol system. Humans insisted on living in inefficiently designed dwellings they called homes, rather than in optimized habitation units. They decorated their ships with art, a concept that still confused most UGA species. They spent precious resources and time on activities that produced no measurable benefit to society. Even their approach to engineering was riddled with what they called creative solutions, a phrase that made most UGA engineers' crystalline forms shudder. But they were harmless enough, confined mostly to their Sol system and a handful of colonies. The Assembly had classified them as a developing species with limited potential for optimization. Most members viewed them with a mixture of pity and bewilderment, like primitive creatures who hadn't yet learned to count. Little did Zix 427 know that the galaxy was about to discover just how valuable human inefficiency could be. The first warning came as a subtle vibration in the quantum substrate that connected all UGA worlds. The great processor, ancient heart of their faster-than-light travel network, had been humming along perfectly for longer than any current civilization could remember. No one knew who had built it. It was simply there, discovered eons ago, managing the complex calculations that allowed ships to slip between the stars. At first, the changes were small enough that only the most sensitive instruments detected them. A 0.0001% variance in calculation speed, a barely measurable fluctuation in the quantum field harmonics. But within days, the numbers began to spiral beyond acceptable parameters. Commander Val 989 of the Technical Division stood before the Assembly Council, her metallic form rigid with concern. The great processor is experiencing unprecedented system failures. Standard diagnostic protocols have been ineffective. We have attempted every documented repair procedure in our archives. The council chamber, normally a model of efficiency, erupted into disorder. Ships across the galaxy were reporting navigation errors. Some had emerged from FTL travel kilometers off course, an unheard-of imprecision. Without the great processor's perfect calculations, interstellar travel would become dangerous, perhaps impossible. We have applied every known solution, Val 989 continued. Our most advanced AI systems have analyzed the problem from every logical angle. We have even attempted to bypass damaged sectors, but the system architecture resists our standard approaches. It's as if, she hesitated, as if the great processor was designed to be deliberately unpredictable. The implications sent ripples of distress through the assembled beings. Unpredictability was the enemy of efficiency. It was chaos, disorder, everything their civilizations had worked so hard to eliminate. "There is one avenue we haven't explored," a junior council member suggested, their energy form flickering with hesitation. "The humans, they specialize in unpredictable solutions." The chamber fell silent. Zix 427 felt his crystalline structure vibrate with discomfort. Surely they hadn't become so desperate that they would turn to the least efficient species in the assembly for help. But as the reports continued to flood in, ships stranded, supply lines disrupted, entire systems facing isolation, they realized they had no choice. They needed someone who could think outside their perfectly optimized box. They needed an artist. Sarah Chen stood in her workshop on Mars Colony 3, surrounded by what most UGA species would consider a nightmare of inefficiency. Oil paintings hung on the walls between holographic diagnostic displays. A half-finished sculpture made of spare engine parts occupied one corner, while complex engineering schematics floated in the air, annotated with what appeared to be poetry. At 55, Sarah had spent most of her career being told she was doing everything wrong. Art has no place in engineering, her professors had said, but she had persisted, developing what she called intuitive engineering, a blend of traditional technical knowledge and artistic insight that had solved problems across the solar system. The UGA message caught her by surprise. "They want what?" she asked her AI assistant, convinced she had misheard. "The Unified Galactic Assembly requests your presence at the Great Processor, immediately." The AI's voice carried an unusual note of urgency. "They specifically asked for you, citing your unique problem-solving methodologies." Within hours, Sarah had assembled her team. Marcus Rodriguez, a 70-year-old mechanical engineer who used music theory to diagnose engine problems. Dr. Emily Wu, whose breakthrough in quantum computing came after studying abstract expressionism. And Tom Williams, a former construction worker turned sculptor, who could look at any structure and instantly see its weak points. They were met at the Great Processor by Zix 427, who managed to convey disdain despite having no recognizable face. "Your assistance is appreciated," the administrator stated, each word seemingly causing him physical discomfort. "Though I must stress the importance of following proper protocols." Sarah was already walking past him, her head tilted as she listened to something. "Do you hear that?" she asked. "The harmonic resonance is off. Marcus, what note would you say that hum is in?" Marcus closed his eyes. "G-flat," he said after a moment. "But it should be F-sharp. The variance is subtle, but it's creating a dissonance throughout the system." Zix 427's crystalline form flickered in confusion. "Sound is irrelevant to the processor's function." "Everything is connected," Sarah interrupted, pulling out what appeared to be a sketchbook, an actual paper sketchbook. "Tom, what do you see in the structural flow?" Tom walked around the central core, his weathered hands moving as if sculpting the air. "It's like a cathedral," he said. "See how the energy flows up through these arches? But there's a break in the rhythm here, like a flying buttress that's lost its support." Dr. Wu was already setting up what looked like an easel, but instead of canvas, it held a complex quantum visualization array. "If we treat the data streams like color theory," she mused, "we can see where the palette breaks down." The next few weeks were a culture clash of epic proportions. The UGA engineers watched in horror as Sarah's team introduced concepts that had no place in their logical world. They played music to the processor, mapped its functions using interpretive dance, and created massive abstract paintings to visualize its data flows. "This is madness," Zix 427 proclaimed after watching Tom sculpt a three-dimensional model of the processor's quantum state out of clay. "You cannot possibly expect to repair the most sophisticated machine in the galaxy with art supplies." But something strange was happening. Young alien engineers, initially watching from a safe distance, began to drift closer. A Silicon Collective junior technician asked Sarah to explain why she chose certain colors to represent data streams. A quantum consciousness specialist spent hours listening to Marcus explain the relationship between Bach's fugues and recursive problem-solving. The breakthrough came during what Sarah called a jam session. Marcus was playing jazz on an old saxophone, while Dr. Wu painted with quantum particles on her specialized canvas. Tom had built a kinetic sculpture that mimicked the processor's energy flows, and Sarah was sketching rapidly, her pencil moving in time with the music. "There," she suddenly exclaimed. "Do you see it? The pattern?" On her sketchpad was a series of seemingly random lines that somehow captured the essence of Marcus's music, the movement of Tom's sculpture, and the quantum dance of Dr. Wu's particles. But more than that, it showed something about the processor that all their diagnostic programs had missed. "It's not broken," Sarah explained to the astonished UGA engineers. "It's composing." The revelation changed everything. The great processor wasn't just a machine, it was an artwork, a grand symphony of mathematics and energy that had been designed to evolve and create. The very unpredictability that was driving the UGA's systems haywire was actually a feature, not a bug. "It's like jazz," Marcus explained to a group of fascinated alien engineers. "You have your basic structure, your fundamental rules, but within that framework, you improvise. You create something new and unexpected." The aliens began to understand. Slowly at first, then with growing enthusiasm, they started to approach problems differently. A young Silicon Collective engineer used color theory to identify patterns in quantum fluctuations. A quantum consciousness specialist incorporated dance movements into their energy flow calculations. Sarah's team began offering classes. Engineering Arts 101, they called it, teaching alien engineers to sketch, to play simple instruments, to move their bodies in ways that helped them understand energy and motion. In return, the aliens shared their precisely optimized calculations and perfectly structured methodologies. Something new emerged from this collaboration, a hybrid approach that neither culture could have developed alone. The final repair sequence was a performance as much as an engineering operation. As Marcus played a complex melody that matched the processor's quantum harmonics, Dr. Wu conducted an orchestra of energy flows through her quantum paintbrush. Tom's sculptures captured and redirected power surges, while Sarah coordinated it all with sketches that somehow translated music into mathematics and back again. The alien engineers added their own precision to this creative chaos. Silicon Collective technicians measured and adjusted at the quantum level, while quantum consciousness specialists maintained the delicate balance of energies. When the last note faded and the final calculation clicked into place, the great processor hummed with a sound that brought tears to human eyes and sent waves of pure appreciation through alien consciousness. It was working better than it ever had before, its calculations now carrying a creative flair that actually improved their accuracy. But the real revelation came when Sarah's team decoded the patterns hidden deep within the processor's core. The original builders hadn't been the logical, efficiency-obsessed engineers everyone had assumed. They had been artists, beings who understood that the greatest works of engineering required both precision and creativity, both mathematics and music. 1 year later, Sarah Chen stood in a new workshop, one that would have been unimaginable before. Human artists and alien engineers worked side by side, their different approaches complementing each other in ways that produced extraordinary results. The UGA had established the Department of Creative Engineering, with offices on every major world. The Silicon Collective had begun incorporating aesthetic principles into their crystalline forms, creating shapes that were both mathematically perfect and beautifully artistic. Quantum consciousness specialists had discovered that artistic expression enhanced their ability to manipulate energy fields. Even the most efficiency-minded species had learned that sometimes the most optimal solution required a touch of human creativity. In the heart of UGA headquarters, a new sculpture stood in the main atrium, a collaboration between human artists and alien engineers. It was a perfect representation of their new understanding, precise yet flowing, logical yet beautiful, a harmony of order and creativity. And in her original Mars workshop, Sarah had framed her first UGA commission request, which now included a line that would have been unthinkable just a year before. Please approach this problem with maximum creativity. The humans, once seen as the galaxy's inefficient dreamers, had become known by a new title, the Artisans of Sol. Their greatest contribution to the galaxy hadn't been technology or resources, but something far more valuable: the reminder that true innovation requires both the precision of science and the unpredictability of art. Zix 427, now the head of the Creative Engineering Initiative, had even taken up painting. His first work hung in his office, a precisely rendered crystal that somehow caught the light in ways that defied mathematical explanation. Below it, a small plaque read, "Efficiency is logical, but creativity is magic." The galaxy had learned that the most beautiful solutions often came from the most unexpected places, and that sometimes the best way to solve a problem was to draw outside the lines.